All right, dude, I'm gonna sign off. Yeah, I gotta film a new video today. Yeah, no, they're doing all right. The last couple of videos severely underperformed. Yeah, we're talking like less than 100 views per upload, which is super normal for up and coming content creators. So I'm not worried about it at all. Yeah, man, I'll talk to you later. See you later. See you later, alligator. All right, see ya. Severely underperformed.
What on earth is Glamwag? Like, what is a Glamwagon? That has nothing to do with music. Like,
yeah, you know, I used to watch Glamwagon, and he was really cool and all, and then he started listening to some woke bullshit.
I heard this guy doesn't even like AJR.
I used to be a really big fan of Glamwagon, but lately the content has just been so cringe. Like, he really fell off.
if I want like regurgitated ChatGPT music reviews, I would just do it myself, man. Like, you think you'd find a unique take somewhere, but my God.
Yeah, I had to stop watching Glamwagon. My girlfriend thought he was too hot.
Hope he falls off a cliff.
Yeah, we're talking like less than 100 views per upload, which is super normal.
Every time I put Glamwagon on the TV, all the bitches leave my crib.
I got it. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another epic Glamwagon video. Today we're going to go over everything that I listened to in the month of May. Smash that like button.
Put the past away. I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. We could cut ties with all the lies that you've been living in.
You guys know the drill. I'm going over everything that I listened to in the month of May. Some of my favorite albums from the year thus far have come out in this very month. Gonna give you a rating, gonna give you a review, tell you what I think is worth your time or not. If you like the content that you're seeing, give me a like, give me a comment, give me a share, subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. Without further ado, let's just jump right into the first record, that being...
You collapse on my heart. I'm gonna stay with you.
The Scholars by Car Seat Headrest. I've got some mixed emotions going into this record. Car Seat Headrest is one of my favorite bands of all time, with Twin Fantasy and Teens of Denial being two of my favorite records of all time. I felt less strongly towards their last record, Making a Door Less Open, so I was a little cautious stepping into the world of the Scholars. It's a far different album in comparison to their last work, with it being a full-fledged rock opera with detailed and elaborate lore and storytelling that is really only evident or understandable, accompanied by the libretto, which most listeners of this record do not have on hand. The dependence on this external text makes the record by proxy pretty inaccessible and hard to follow. Their commitment to concept is interesting and admirable, but it comes at the cost of the raw, personal, and vulnerable songwriting that I've loved from their past work. With that being said, the technical achievements on this record are undeniable, with airtight guitar and percussion, as well as some monumentally paced, lengthier tracks, with one sitting at just under 20 minutes long, which is a feat in of itself. While nothing here quite reaches the emotional highs of a Beach Life in Death, it's incredibly consistent in both its tone and momentum. Scholars is not my favorite Car Seat Headrest record, but it's still one of the most engaging and passionate releases to come out of 2025, so it not being a particular standout from the band is not saying much. And despite its few flaws, I'm going to give Car Seat Headrest an 8.
Will you watch my shit while I settle? If we migrate, you can get the next one. I'll be back in a sec, but I'm grateful. It was worth it skipping rehearsal.
Next, I listened to Pirouette by Modal Actriz. Gritty, industrial, and gnarly, yet groovy and danceable, this record is truly visceral. An album that manages to be so fun to listen to, yet simultaneously sparks so much paranoia and anxiety in its sound. Dog's Body from 2023 was similar, although far more abrasive in its experimentation. Pirouette leans further into its melodies than Dog's Body, which had far stronger focus on atmosphere. The balance is pulled off quite well here, with most tracks feeling layered and dissectable while still accessible and melodic. Couple minor critiques I found upon first listen now stick out to me like sore thumbs, unfortunately, like the mixing, for example, between the vocals and instrumentals, making the verses almost unintelligible at times. Also found the sonic palette here to somewhat restrain the record's full creativity, with every track utilizing similarly derivative industrial noises. Regardless, Pirouette is a dark and haunted listen, one that's very much worth your time if you've got the stomach for it. And I'm going to give Pirouette an 8. Next, I listened to Fancy That by PinkPantheress. I never quite understood the hype behind PinkPantheress. Admittedly, I consider myself a fan of dance pop generally, but her music always just felt a little generic to me in the grand scheme of the genre. Fancy That is certainly fun and nails a carefree attitude in both its charisma and in its songwriting. But once its quick 20 minutes fly by, I'm left thinking, that's it? The mixtape feels very rooted in its early 2000s inspirations with this iconic Y2K sound that I'm pretty impartial to. I do think that this record is paced pretty well with very little room for filler or missteps. Its consistency is appreciated and makes for a more streamlined listen. I just wish that PinkPantheress was doing a little more to blow me away. Because as it stands, Fancy That is a good and fun time, but doesn't do much to break the mold or entice me into coming back for more. And I'm gonna give Fancy That a 7. Next, I listened to Uchis Sincerely, which is a dreamy, mesmerizing, and truly luscious listen. I'm a relatively new fan of Uchis, tuning in around 2023 with her record Red Moon in Venus, which I enjoyed but didn't think much of at the time. I felt similarly towards her last record, which was just as beautiful but didn't strike a chord with me outside of it just being enjoyable on the surface. With Sincerely though, Uchis is putting her best foot forward and stunning the listener with every track. Her vocals are so wonderful and consistent here and act as the through line that makes this album feel so concise and deliberate. I'm absolutely loving the production here as well, with every track literally flowing into the next seamlessly, which gives this record uniquely worthy replay value. There are a couple of moments that feel a little derivative and unnecessary, but these moments are far and few between. This is the catchiest that Uchis has ever been, with plenty of tracks that will remain in my rotation for quite some time. I initially wasn't rocking with the lyricism here, as it can be pretty one-dimensional with surface-level themes of love and longing, but fuck it, it's cute. Nothing wrong with a lovey-dovey record as long as it's done tastefully, which on Sincerely, it certainly is. I'm loving this one a lot, actually, and I'm gonna give Uchis an 8.5.
I ain't never asked to be here, so when I decide to leave, all them devils in the details rush to either side of me. Where we going all depends what I pretended I believe. When I finally meet my maker, I have something up my sleeve.
Next, I listened to the new Billy Woods record, which is horrific, not just in its production, but in its lyricism as well. Woods juxtaposes harsh themes of abuse, poverty, and racism alongside haunting, visceral, and truly disorienting beats, which makes for an incredibly engaging, layered, and nuanced listen. Like on Star 87, where Woods struggles to come to terms with his survivor's guilt over the sound of layered phone rings and dial-up tones. Or on the incredibly uncomfortable and haunting Waterproof Mascara, where Woods details the domestic abuse and violence he experienced growing up over a looped sample of a woman's distress. It's a difficult listen, one that does not hold your hand and one that exposes you to the dark and tragic themes that Woods taps into. It's easy to relate the record to that of a horror movie, a comparison that Woods himself makes throughout the album. It's an incredibly dense record, one that I've yet to fully dissect and understand myself. All I know is that Woods is rapping his ass off while juggling some pretty heavy themes over some of the best underground hip hop has to offer. And I'm gonna give Billy Woods an 8.5. Next, I listened to Equus Caballus by Men I Trust, which is a much stronger release from Men I Trust in comparison to its sister album, Equus Asinus. As you may recall, I wasn't particularly rocking with how muddy and underwhelming the whole project came across, despite capturing a unique and dense atmosphere. Equus Caballus, on the other hand, focuses a little more on the grooves and melodies than its counterpart, delivering some really engaging material. More reminiscent of their older material, which works a whole lot better than the sleepier, more acoustic angle that they took in their last installment. It's a little odd to see singles from like 2 to 3 years ago make the cut on this album, which inherently makes this album feel a little dated. Overall left me wanting a little more than what it was able to offer, and still feels a little aimless at times, but the record is a solid assortment of bedroom pop that does bump in the whip. And I'm gonna give Men I Trust a 7.5. Next, I listened to Pink Elephant by Arcade Fire. I consider myself a fan of Arcade Fire, with Funeral and most notably The Suburbs being some of my favorite indie rock records of all time. I'm also quite the fan of Reflector, which released to some lukewarm reception. I skipped Everything Now and We from 2022 was unmemorable, to say the least. I saw how abysmal the ratings and reviews were for Pink Elephant, so I went in very cautiously. For starters, the sheer amount of unnecessary interludes really jack this record's flow up, killing any sparse momentum that it's able to muster up. When this thing isn't discordant and poorly produced, it's boring. Pink Elephant feels like the shell of what made Arcade Fire a force to be reckoned with in the 2000s, and comes across like a record scrambled together by a group whose hearts just aren't in it anymore. This thing kind of sucked, point blank, and I'm gonna give Pink Elephant a 4.5.
I started running, the shadow started to chase me. I had to pick up the pace and fix up my laces. And then I saw the sun that lit up the pavement, and I saw your face in the grace, and it was amazing. Check it.
Next, I listened to Only Dust Remains by Backxwash, which slipped past me in March, and I'm only just now getting around to listening, and good God, glad that I did. I'm unfamiliar with her work and went into this record with zero expectations, and there were quite a few moments on here that truly blew me away. Ashanti pours her all into her material, showing the ugliest and most vulnerable sides of depression and hopelessness that she struggles with. The record in of itself feels like the peak and the come down of a panic attack, with raw and unattractively real lyrics accompanied by some satisfyingly overwhelming production. Take Disassociation, for example, where Backxwash turns to alcoholism in an attempt to run from the shadows over a beat so intense, so grandiose and disorienting that you struggle to hold on for even a moment. A standout on the album for sure. Her vocals and cadence are unique, which plays to both the strengths and weaknesses of the project. These vocals make her stand out from other experimental hip-hop artists working today, but also makes the listen somewhat inaccessible if you are turned off by how squeaky and sporadic that they can be at times. But I'm loving this record and how vulnerable it allows itself to be, and it being fun to listen to certainly helps. A standout from the year if you're into alternative experimental hip-hop, check this one out. I'm gonna give Backxwash an 8.5. Next, I listened to Object Permanence by Sophia Stel. What a cute little EP, you know? It's not quite refined or bold enough to shout its name from atop a mountain, but plants the seed of an artist who's bound to grow over time. Everything from the production to the lyrics to the vocals feel quite amateur, which is part of its charm, but equally part of its downfall. It contributes to its great atmosphere and homemade aesthetic, but prevents the listen from feeling fully realized. The song structures here could use some work, with a lot of tracks here feeling a little aimless and unorganized. I hear a lot of Ethel Cain inspiration in her cadence and reverby approach, and absolutely love when this thing manages to get a little more bite, like on No Pressure and You Could Hate Me. I'm also loving the groove on I'll Take It, which is the standout track here by a landslide. I'm not loving the Brockhampton-esque pitched vocals on a track like Why the Fuck Would This Help, with it sounding a little too squeaky and childish for my own taste. What this record lacks in perfection, it makes up for in potential. I wouldn't be reviewing a record with under 10 ratings otherwise. Give it a shot. I'm sure that this will be right up a lot of people's alleys. And I'm gonna give Sophia Stel a 6.5.
I was on 145th and St. Nick, taking that 8 train down to the mix. Complex wasn't really paying me shit, and Def Jam had me getting sandwiches. Got one for Big Sean, but at least T-tip, and that 20 saved my life that week.
Next I listened to 13 Months of Sunshine by Aminé. You know exactly what to expect when you get yourself into an Aminé record. Radio-friendly pop rap with some admittedly catchy hooks and some nonchalant lyricism with safe and formulaic production. Limbo from 2020 was a brief exception to this rule with some more experimental and avant-garde production and some bolder moments to stand out amongst his discography. 13 Months of Sunshine, though, is a return to form more aligned with the sounds he was playing with on Good For You, an album that I found to be pretty underwhelming all around. Aminé's just doing his best Drake impression throughout this record, and sleepily so. Pretty derivative track list with everything sort of blending into one another in a pretty unappealing way. Yeah, I don't really care for this. It's, you know, somewhat inoffensive, but pretty forgettable. And I'm gonna give Aminé a 6.
Think I need a pre-show. Sick nigga, 190 pounds on my dick, nigga. I'll be acting broke for a rich nigga. Fill a fucking bag from the bricks. I need me a preacher. Preacher, please come preach to me the things he teaches. Pieces give a piece of me. I'll bite the head and feeding me.
Next, I listened to Egotrip by John Michael and Anthony James. And holy fucking shit. It's a rare occasion where an up-and-coming artist blows me away to such a degree that John Michael and Anthony James's Egotrip did. The production on this thing is truly next level. The sample flips and the near perfect blend of jazz and rock complement Michael's raspy, hungry, and raw vocals wonderfully. Every track is so unbelievably catchy and powerful. Everything feels so grandiose and larger than life, oftentimes incorporating swelling choir vocals and bombastic guitar work and percussion. Most notably on tracks like World's End and Preacher, two of which being my favorite cuts off of the record. That's not to say that this expressive and dynamic presentation isn't evident on every track on this record, because there isn't a dull moment on this album. The features are all wonderfully executed and complement Michael's verses in every setting. I wish that the interludes were refined into longer, more fleshed out tracks, but even they are accomplishing so much in such a short runtime. One of the most impressive hip-hop records of the last decade, and from a new artist, nonetheless. So excited to see what these guys do from here, because the potential should honestly intimidate the industry. Near perfection, and I'm gonna give Egotrip a 9.5. Next, I listened to Evangelic Girl Is a Gun by Yeule. I have slowly become a massive Yeule fan. I've loved every single to come out prior to this record's release, and Soft Scars was one of my favorite records to come out of 2023. Evangelic Girl Is a Gun is the darkest they've ever sounded, really leaning hard into the grittiest and dirty sounds glitch pop has to offer. From the cool and smooth as hell bass line on Tequila Coma to the glitchy, dancey outro on Evangelic Girl Is a Gun, to the gnarly, distorted guitar riffs on Skull Crusher, the production on this thing is bar none, featuring some of the catchiest instrumentals to come out of this year, with my favorite being Doot Doo, which may very well be my favorite pop track of the year. Yeule's vocals are flawless here, often sounding quite ethereal at times, feeling very reminiscent of Caroline Polachek's cadences in her own work. There were one or two tracks that felt a little undercooked in comparison to how tight and concise the rest of this record is, which mess up the project's pacing a bit, but despite the occasional cracks in the diamond, this thing is really, really good. I'm rocking with this one quite a bit, and I'm gonna give Yeule an 8.5. Next, I listened to Something Beautiful by Miley Cyrus. Let me preface this review by saying I'm not a fan of Miley Cyrus nor her past work. I never have been. An Endless Summer Vacation from 2023 did not change my mind despite her moving in a more refined and focused direction. Something Beautiful, though, is admittedly actually pretty great. It's bold and experimental, which was not on my bingo card for Miley Cyrus in 2025. Cyrus is delivering a strong performance here, but the star of the show is truly within the production. The jazzy art rock to glam rock angle is really compelling, and while this sound is a bit of a 180 from Cyrus's previous work, it's a necessary shift in direction. I'm still not the biggest fan of Cyrus's vocal inflections, and I do think it clashes a little with the grandiose and larger-than-life production, but it's easy to see past despite the songwriting being a little one-dimensional. Really ambitious in comparison to her previous material and a standout of 2025 for sure. Undeniably her best material to date, and I'm gonna give Cyrus an 8.
Singing the headlines, line with discord. It's either genocide or the planet in uproar. Never good. The rules in paradise are never nice. The best laid plans of mice and men are never right.
And last but certainly not least, I listened to Modal Soul by Nujabes. A friend recommended this album to me and I've sat with it for about a month now because I wasn't quite sure what to say. Modal Soul is unbelievably good. The production on this thing is some of the best I've ever heard on a jazz rap record. I love the rap focus cuts on this thing with Feather, Lovesick Part 3, and Thank You being absolute beasts, but where this record really shines, in my opinion, is in its instrumental cuts. They envelop you in their sound and create a dense, potent, and elegant atmosphere. It truly masters ambiance and manages to be both powerful and meditative at the same time. The balance is what makes this record so masterful. The orchestration on this record from front to back is so refined and meticulous, yet so overflowing with emotion and artistry. I really have nothing but great things to say about Modal Soul. There are a couple of tracks that don't blow my socks off or anything like that, but everything is still so quality. A wonderful record produced by a legend that we lost too soon. Rest in power, Nujabes. I'm gonna give you a 9. And oh goddamn, that's everything that I listened to in the month of May. What did you listen to this month? Let me know in the comments below. Did I miss anything? What are you rocking with? I take song recs, I take album recs, I take artist recs. If you like what you saw, give me a like, give me a comment, give me a share, subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. I do monthly recaps every month. I also do tier lists and song brackets. Stay tuned for some more cool stuff just around the corner. Sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, and I'll see you in the next one. Type shit.
Every time I put Blamwagon on the TV, all the bitches leave my crib.